Guys, what's going on? I hope you had a nice weekend. We're gonna work on chapter 26, section 1.2 today. Go over your homework assignment. We're gonna continue on with chapter 26 here. Hopefully, you're watching these videos. I'll check the viewer stats to see if some of you guys are signing on. We'll go from there. Today, we're going to focus on kind of carrying on what we talked about from section one, part one, which is going to be that Plessy v. Ferguson separate but equal court case. And there's three really big things we're going on today. One of the most important court cases in the history of the United States, integrating, ending segregation, but integrating schools in the South. And then ultimately the Montgomery bus boycott that we'll discuss. So we're going to talk about a court case, Brown v. Board of Education or Brown v. Board of Ed. However you want to word it is fine. Memorize it, know it, understand it. I'm going to ask it like 6 times on your test. All right, Oliver Brown, all right, sued the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas, because they did not allow his daughter to attend a school because of her skin color. Okay, it was a segregated school. The school was not integrated, and therefore she was not allowed to attend. And the principal actually told her that the school was for whites only. At this time, the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, had really made a lot of headway in the Supreme Court as far as arguing that 14th Amendment. And Thurgood Marshall, who we already were introduced to, takes the court case all the way to the Supreme Court. Okay, and he argues that separate but equal is not equal. It's not the 14th Amendment. American citizens under the 14th Amendment as citizens are not being treated equally based on skin color. Right? On May 7th, 1954, the Supreme Court will say, it's right. All right, and separate but equal has no place in the public school system. This court case right here, Brown v. Board of Ed, ends Plessy v. Ferguson. It ends separate but equal. Okay, integration had to happen, and it wasn't just schools. All right, it's going to end up being food restaurants and bus systems and hospitals and parks and movie theaters and everything. All right, but this court case right here literally ends Plessy v. Ferguson. Separate but equal is unequal, and it has to end. Guys, you got to memorize this court case. It's going to be on your test. Again, segregation rules. All right. If you were in these red states, segregation existed. It absolutely positively existed. All right. So you could be separated in the red states based on skin color. And this is Thurgood Marshall, Oliver Brown, right here. Here's Thurgood Marshall. All right. And this is the famous quote from the Supreme Court. Okay. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. That's going to be on your test. This is all going to be on your test. All right, so please, you got to know the Brown v. Board of Ed court case. It is so important for civil rights, for the chapter, and for the test. So please memorize it. All right, these are some headlines. Go on. All right, this is the Supreme Court that did it. Earl Warren is the Chief Justice in the middle. Okay. And then we talk a little bit about whether or not these schools are going to integrate in the South. And one of the most famous takes place in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the governor of Arkansas refuses to let students attend. Okay, Orville Faber is his name, and he refuses to allow students to attend the high school based on race, even though, because the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Brown in favor of Thurgood Marshall and Mr. Brown and the family, and separate but equal was over, they still weren't listening. Okay, and if you remember, think back way back to chapter 7 of the 7th grade year. All right, that the job of the president is to enforce law, and that's exactly what Eisenhower is going to do. He's the president. He actually sends the army in. He sends federal troops in. This is not supposed to be deferral. It's supposed to be, say, federal. All right, to make sure it happens. And there's riots, there's arguing, there's debates back and forth. President Eisenhower finally sends the army in to allow these kids into school, and they're known as the Little Rock Nine. All right, and these are the actual pictures. Here's the military. Right here. All right, these are military troops escorting 9 African American students into Little Rock High School just to go to school. All right. The Supreme Court said they had to. The governor himself blocked them. Okay. There's actually him right here. All right. Standing on the front steps of Little Rock High School, refusing to let him in. The National Guard has to be called in. Here's one right here, and here's some. They're being followed. They're being yelled at. They're being cursed at, screamed at. Guys, just to go to school. All right, just to go to high school. All right, these were them. Little Rock 9. Outside of Little Rock High School is actually a monument in memory of them and the integration of the school system in the South because of Brown v. Board of Ed. These are pictures. All right, again, imagine all of this just to go to high school. Crazy, nuts, just to go to high school. Yeah. And continuing on with the civil rights movement, we have Rosa Parks, who many of you know about, and she's such an influential person. In December 1st of 55, she doesn't give her seat up to a white passenger on the bus. She's arrested. She is put into jail. She's released. But after that, the civil rights movement is really picking up because, again, Brown v. Board of Ed, we've integrated the school system. Why can't we integrate the bus system? Okay, and it starts in Montgomery, Alabama, and this is where we get introduced to a young Martin Luther King Jr., who is going to be the head of the civil rights movement that actually goes down to Alabama, organizes the boycott. African Americans in Alabama refuse to ride the buses, cost them a fortune in money. King's home is bombed. His supporters were thrown in jail. He had death threats, letters sent to his house, but the boycott works. And after 381 days, the Supreme Court will rule segregation on public buses unconstitutional. Okay, so you can see that. Now it's Brown v. Board of Ed. Schools have to be integrated. The bus system has to be integrated. On December 21st, Dr. King will board the Montgomery bus, sits in the first row, sits in the first seat, and it's another achievement for civil rights. Okay, famous picture. Here's Rosa Parks right here, refusing to give up her seat. All right, she was supposed to sit in the back. She refused to. She was arrested for this, and she was ultimately put into prison. All right, she will be released. Dr. King gets involved, and this is where we really get introduced to Dr. King, one of the most influential men in United States history. Okay, in my opinion, who really takes note of what Rosa Parks did and using the argument of integration of the schools and arguing we should have everything integrated. He organizes a boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. And this is the bus, guys. That's the actual bus in a museum that Rosa Parks is famous for. Okay? Here's Dr. King getting on that bus the day of the boycott will be lifted once the bus system is integrated because of the boycott organized by him. Okay? They had marches, they had protests, all right, until ultimately the state of Alabama had to integrate the bus system. And again, another achievement. All right, this is a famous photo, great photo. 50 years earlier, this was, I believe, a year or two into President Obama's first term. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's the first term. All right, President Obama went and visited the bus that Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to, and it's a very amazing picture in U.S. history. 50 years prior to this picture, an African American woman's being arrested for not giving up her seat, and here's the first African American president sitting in that bus. It's an amazing picture. It tells an amazing history. It's one of my favorite photos to show of the year. All right. So again, 3 things you're going to go over today. All right, 3 things we're going to talk about, and they're on your homework. This is your homework sheet. You can do it on the Google Docs form. You can submit it. We did Thurgood Marshall, the NAACP. We did Jackie Robinson, President Truman integrating the military. Here is the Brown v. Board of Ed court case right here. You have to memorize that on your test. Okay? The integration of the public school system. Rosa Parks, Montgomery bus boycott, the introduction to Dr. King, and then finally the integration of the bus system in the South as well. Again, small victories, key victories to push for more civil rights. So again, guys, do your homework. Checkpoint 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 questions. You can do it right on the Google Docs form like you usually do. Complete sentences. You do a great job with these. Turn it in when you're done. I'll give you a day or 2 to do it, probably a day. You don't need much time to do this, but get it in. Grades count, grades help. Look at the notes, watch the video presentation, and we'll continue on moving into chapter 26 tomorrow. Any questions, text me or email me, guys. Stay safe and healthy.